Welcome back, guys. Episode number 3, The Chris Opdyke Show. We got our first actual sponsor. So I'm going to read our quick commercial. First commercial, Carpet Pilot, flying high above the competition. Carpet Pilot cleans your carpet, hardwood, tile, and upholstery organically. If you can walk or sit on it, Carpet Pilot can clean it. It's great for yoga studios and gym floors as well. Call for your free estimate today, 732-773-5535. Check them out at carpetpilot.com or carpetpilot1 on Insta. Today we have a special guest, Cory Weissman, stroke survivor, motivational speaker. Cory, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
So you were a pretty good high school athlete, varsity soccer player, 1,000-point scorer on the basketball court. You go away to Gettysburg College for your freshman year. Spring semester, March 26, 2009, you have a major stroke, AVM, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit when that happens, you kind of coming back, the rehab process.
Yeah, so, I mean, like you said, just going from being a successful high school athlete to, we're pretty much a successful athlete my whole life to, achieving one of my goals and being able to play a sport at the collegiate level. At the end of my freshman year to have that setback and all of a sudden things aren't going, the way that they were supposed to, apparently, and, kind of threw my life in somewhat of a whirlwind. And
Yeah, a little bit of a spin.
Yeah, absolutely. Just took me down a different path, and at the time it seemed like it was going to be, a terrible thing, but then just, as we'll talk about, and just the way that my story panned out, ended up being a blessing, but I had no idea at the time of the stroke what it was going to take to get back, if I was going to get back, to where I was. So it was just kind of like just thrown into a tornado and just see where it was going to take me.
So you have that stroke, you're at college when you do it, in the spring semester, and then they move you to a rehab center here in New Jersey, right? Kessler, West Orange?
Yep, Kessler up in West Orange.
Talk about that a little bit.
So that's actually, after I had the stroke, my mom's actually a physical therapist, so she knew the importance of getting me the best possible care right after the stroke, because those first couple months are so crucial to your recovery. That's when your brain's going to try to make as many connections as it possibly could. So she was researching all different locations all over the country. We were considering moving out to Arizona, for a couple months while I was in rehab. But then she found Kessler up in West Orange, which is one of the most well-known rehab facilities in the entire country, and we just got lucky that it was only about an hour away from Jackson, where we were living. So we ended up going there, and Kessler has had so many big names in there. Christopher Reeves, we talked about this after he fell off the horse and had his spinal cord injury. He stayed there. Way back in the day, just a fun fact, Notorious B.I.G. stayed there. My last, I have to throw this in there, my last paper in college was actually comparing Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac, and found out that right before Biggie died, when he was walking around with the cane, it wasn't just, for looks, it was because he had a really bad accident on the turnpike, actually. So interestingly enough, he spent about 2 or 3 months in Kessler as well. And then just kind of as things went on, Eric LeGrand, who also has an amazing story, stayed in Kessler. Scotty Kramer,
BMX.
Yeah, big BMX star. Me and you were talking about him the other day.
Yeah.
Just an amazing facility, and probably a major reason why I had such a successful recovery, just because I was in such good hands.
And just being an hour from home, you guys got lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we were talking the other night prepping, I can't believe when you told me this, you had your stroke in spring semester and you're back for your sophomore year in September. Mm-hmm. So you go back sophomore year, and you're not really fully recovered from a stroke yet. 6 months later, you just had a major stroke.
Yeah.
But you wanted to go back to school. You weren't like taking the semester off.
Yeah, no. The doctors, they were telling me like, hey, maybe you should take some time off, just go easy, focus on your rehab. But, I spent the whole summer after I got out of Kessler, living at Kessler in the rehab facility. Mm-hmm. I went home and I was going to physical therapy every day, and I wasn't able to go hang out with my friends. They all had to come over to my house, and so I wasn't really living my life. So when it came to, being able to make the decision about going back to school, I was like, I just want to get my life back on track. So
You
I was
needed
like,
a sense of like normalcy back.
yeah. I was like, no, I need to go back to school, and I thought that things were going to just fall right back into place. Unfortunately, I did have a catastrophic stroke a couple months prior, so did struggle a little bit when I got back to school. But yeah, I mean, just in regards, just to give you an idea about physically what I was, what my abilities were. I was able to walk on my own, but at a very, very slow pace. When I was walking with a big group of friends, one of them needed to, stay back and walk with me. I needed help carrying stuff up and down the stairs. But I was fully functional.
You were independent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fully independent, but did need some help. But then cognitively, I did struggle, with my courses. Mm-hmm. I tried to take on too much of a course load. Again, too soon. Again, I just wanted to, and it's kind of how I was brought up, and just my mentality of, like, no excuses, just go. Like, I didn't want to say, like, oh, I only want to take one class this semester because I just had a stroke. It was like, no, I'm back at school. I'm going to go right back into the classes, that I was supposed to take. And when I started to struggle, we had to kind of reassess things and see what was in my best interest. So
slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, slowed it down a little bit. So
when you were at college, now you're back at college, you're still doing like an outpatient PT?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how many times a week do you do that?
Going about 2 to 3 times a week to a local physical therapy place in Gettysburg.
In Gettysburg.
Yep.
And then you're also working a little bit at the athletic training office, doing some of your stuff there as well?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So we were really lucky. I mean, there's so many things, with my story that I say, it's a puzzle piece that everything just fits perfectly together. My sophomore year, when I got back to school, my school just opened up this multi-million-dollar renovation to our athletic complex, and state-of-the-art athletic training room with an underwater treadmill. I mean, I'm talking like a Division I or professional level type of athletic training room. So, in addition to the 2 to 3, PT sessions I would do at the physical therapy office, I would do the same exercises at the athletic training room. I mean, I knew that doing PT 2 or 3 times a week wasn't going to cut it. There was no way that I was, I wasn't rehabbing a sprained ankle or anything like that. I mean, I was trying to learn how to walk and learn how to run and, do all those sorts of things. So I knew that it was going to take more than 2 to 3 workouts a week.
Now, also, you're back for that sophomore year, and like you said, you're fully independent, but you're still just a little slower because you're still in recovery, but you're still going to basketball practice.
Yeah, had to. I was very lucky. I mean, that was the one thing that kept me going, was basketball. If it wasn't for basketball, I don't know why I would, get up and go to PT and go to, the athletic training room and work out every day. It was that goal that, in all honesty, it sounds crazy, but I don't remember saying this because it was right after I had the stroke, maybe the next day, but my mom was telling me that literally one of the first things that I started talking about was getting back out into the basketball court. So here I am, I just had this stroke and the left side of my body is fully paralyzed, but I'm saying, I'm going to get back out into the court. And, luckily no one told me, no, you're not. Whether they, understood that, okay, no, he's not going to be the same athlete he used to be. No one shut me down, which was great because in my head it was like every single day it was like, okay, I'm going to get back out into the court. So that's why it was never hard to, put in the extra work and, do my rehab because I had that goal in mind. I needed to get back out into the court.
So the circumstances, it's a pretty successful sophomore year of college, right? So you come back junior year, you kind of have that course load in check. You kind of know what you can and can't do now in the classroom. Cognition, though, you're telling me you're 100% back, like cognitively, you're there.
My stroke itself was the location of the AVM, the arteriovenous malformation, was right in my primary motor cortex, so literally the part of the brain that just controls motor movements. So they knew all along that my cognition would return. That initial stage of about a half a year to a year where my cognition was somewhat impaired was just because of the severity of the stroke.
And the brain
but primarily the deficits were all going to be motor deficits on the left side.
What do the doctors say when you say you go back to school your junior year and you're fully functioning cognitive? Are they like surprised, or not so much because, like you said, it happened where it controls the left side of your body? To me, like the normal guy, you having a major stroke and a year later going, yeah, I'm back in college and I'm taking all my classes, like nothing ever happened. that's a little crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would just in regards to them understanding what I am capable of doing from a brain capacity, from cognition, standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't surprised because they knew that I was young and that like I said, that the stroke happened and it was just going to affect the motor movements on my left side. But I think more of the surprise was that here I am, a year after having the stroke, still getting my life back on track. So it wasn't so much that I was able to function, it was the fact that I was putting myself back in that position where I needed to function.
Right.
I could have easily been sitting at home doing nothing, and no one would have judged me for it because I did have this, huge accident.
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that I was out there, I was, still trying to live my life and pursue my dreams, and I guess that's more where the surprise was, and
Right.
the excitement.
And then
around
basketball practice, you're kind of practicing with the team. You're able to do some drill stuff, not contact.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want anybody pumping
Right,
you or anything
right,
like
right.
that. But you're doing some drills, layup lines, shooting drills, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So you're still back. You're still going to practice. I want people to understand this that are listening. You're at school a year after taking a full course load and going to basketball practice every day of the week.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it just having basketball there and going to practice every day is just something that I needed. It didn't matter if it was taking time away from my studies and making it a little bit difficult for me to, maybe focus on the studies. It was that, big picture, having my successful recovery. It all came down to being able to go to practice and even just do those little layup lines. To some people it might not seem like a big deal because it's just layup lines, shooting drills, but for me it was a huge accomplishment because sophomore year when I first got back I was operating the shot clock. I was at every practice, but I was operating the shot clock. I was keeping score when the team was scrimmaging. So junior year when I got back and I was actually doing layup lines, it's like a huge accomplishment, huge achievement for me.
Right.
Having that go-to to keep me going, and
That was your thing, like basketball. So because I want to play basketball, I'm going to get better.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
You don't think about it like how it's just basketball to most people, but to you, that's what it was to
That's
get your
what it
life
was.
back, right?
Yeah,
That's really
that's
what it was. So you go out, you have a really successful junior year. You come back for that senior year. You're feeling stronger. You're feeling faster. You're back on the floor. You once again, because I'm still amazed by this. Senior year, you're still talking 3 years after the major stroke, right? But once again, full course load at school, full basketball practice every day, and it's your senior year, and then it's senior day, right? It's senior day. So talk about senior day and how all that played out.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like a tradition, high school level, college level, that on senior day, the seniors will start or at least get in the game, whether they actually play or not. My coach knew the importance of basketball and what it meant to me, and was obviously there with me the entire 3 years throughout my recovery, and saw the hard work that I was putting in. We had numerous conversations, and he knew that it was basketball that was my driving force to, go to work every day and continue to rehab. So he was so excited, when senior day came around, because he was, in all honesty, he was trying to get me in a game like all year. Now I wasn't able to, play, so I wouldn't really be able to get into the game, in the course of, action. But if there was like a technical foul or something like that, he was always trying to think of ways to get me in there to maybe shoot a free throw. And then that senior day came around, and he had a discussion with some of the other assistant coaches, and then the other coach to see if there was some way that they could get me in the game and then sub me out so that it wouldn't put either team at like a disadvantage. Because we didn't want to have me go in the game and then have someone call a timeout or someone call a foul.
Yeah, you want to affect the outcome of the game.
Right, exactly. So they decided just to give me the start, and then whoever got the ball off the jump ball would just roll it out of bounds, and I'd be subbed out, and that's what happened. And it's just it's crazy that I'll never forget it, just sitting on the bench and or in the chairs hearing my name called on the loudspeaker and starting lineups. It's like that's something that obviously you've heard hundreds and thousands of times, your name on the loudspeaker, around the PA system. But just on that day, hearing my name and starting at point guard, it was like I got chills down my spine, and I'll never forget that. And I definitely, there's certain things you take for granted, for sure. And that's one that I'll never forget. And then, I mean, so I go out, jump ball goes up, everything according to plan, and the guy actually hands me the ball, I roll it out of bounds, and I mean, I think I was probably on the court for like 4 or 5 seconds, and got subbed out, but to me, it didn't matter. That was honestly, like I said, when I was laying in a hospital bed, left side of my body paralyzed, that's what I was working for, was even if it was those 5 seconds of, just getting back out onto the court. It was like, you did it.
That's what it was. Now something special happened at the end of the game, and it went a little viral. So talk about what happened at the end of the game.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is another one of the things that's like, my stories.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't know how many pieces of the puzzle, maybe 1 million, but...
I got goosebumps right now as you look. I got goosebumps.
Yeah, actually does. But yeah, so it just so happened that, we had an amazing day. Our team was killing it, and we were up by 20 points, and with about a minute left to go in the game, my coach called the timeout, and it was kind of, the game was over, literally. Like, we were up by 20, the game was over, so he was like, hey, Cory, do you want to go back in the game? And, like, I'm a competitor, I'm an athlete, and obviously I'm like, yeah, like, I want to go back in the game. So this was another thing that was really cool. Just literally, just running over to the, the scores table and, tapping and saying, all right, I'm checking back in. It was like, it was just so cool, to be able to do that again. Like, it's just something so simple, and I don't even talk about that much, but just as we're talking now, it's like, I could just remember just being able to go to the table and say, like, I'm back in. So I go back in and run up and down the court a couple times, got the ball, ran a couple plays. I didn't really play much defense, but, I mean, you saw me in high school. I never really played much defense. I don't know. I always tell people it's hard to score 1,000 points and at the same time waste energy on defense, So, no, in all honesty, it was great because this was not planned. The beginning of the game was planned. There was something that, like, had to be done, just roll the ball out of bounds and come out.
Mm-hmm.
This was just like a free-for-all. This was like, all right, now, like, you're officially back on the court. Like, now you're
now it's like live game.
Yeah, exactly. It's not staged. And then, as if that wasn't good enough, the other coach, again, just another puzzle piece. We happened to be playing a team that coach just did something like extraordinary. He called a timeout with like 20 seconds left to go, and everyone's not really sure like why he would call a timeout. Like, there's 20 seconds left. He's down by 22 points, something like that, and he apparently had been talking to his assistant coach, trying to figure out a way to give me the opportunity to score. And afterwards, we found out that he was saying, oh, maybe we should just give him a layup, like, kind of part the C's. And he was like, no, like, I know this kid, and I know just kind of how athletes are. Like, no one really wants you to just part the C's. So he came up with the idea, which I thought was brilliant, of fouling me because we were in the double bonus, so one foul, and I'd go get my 2 free throws. So in that timeout, he sent one of his coaches over and told my team to get me the ball because they were going to intentionally foul me. And then my coach did something that, like, he really didn't have to do. And again, this is something that, you take for granted as, like, through all your years of, being in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
So all we had to do was just get me the ball, right? But my coach knew how cool it would be to see myself on the chalkboard, on the playboard.
Mm-hmm.
So he drew up a play, like, had me come off a screen to come get the ball. And again, that was just something that was so cool, like seeing my name and, all right, Cory, you got to cut this way, come off the screen. So that's just, again, another, like, small thing that, you take for granted. So came off, got the ball. They intentionally fouled me to put me at the free throw line. And, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'm a good free throw shooter, but, in this situation,
You're a little nervous.
I was nervous, yeah. Having sat the entire game, and just being, it's one thing to, be shooting like when you're actually in the game, but this was kind of different because even though I had been running for like a minute or so, it didn't feel like I was like in the rhythm of the game. It was kind of like, all right, out of nowhere, here you go. Here's 2 free throws, and by the way, you had a stroke, and here's your only chance to score.
Ever, no
pressure.
Right,
exactly, no pressure. You've never scored in college yet. If you miss these 2, like, oh well, that stinks.
It is.
Yeah, so I was nervous on my first one. I went through my routine, and I had a lot of butterflies and came up a little bit short. But then what's crazy is literally my second free throw was like the most confident free throw I've taken in my entire life, and I could say that like sincerely that it wasn't even a matter of I know I'm gonna make this. It was a matter of like I know it's going in. Like I didn't. I almost felt like I didn't need to even shoot it in my head, and it's. I know it sounds crazy, but in my head, the thoughts that were going through my mind was I literally just need to put the ball up, and it's gonna go in. Like it wasn't even a matter of okay, you got to make this. It was like just go through your routine, shoot it, and the ball's gonna go in. After the 3 years of hard work, everything you put into it, there's no way that this opportunity is gonna slip. So that's what happened. Put the ball up and right through the net, and that's all she wrote.
Place goes a little crazy.
Place went a little crazy, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, so again, that's something that I was not expecting, obviously. I had already accomplished my goal of just, even those 5 seconds of just getting on the court, I accomplished my goal that I've been working for. To get back out onto the court, just added to it. To score a point, that was the, topping on the cake.
Right.
And then, I thought that was amazing, something like so cool. I could say I scored a point in college. I had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah.
One of my assistant coaches said, Cory, like, this is going to be big, man. Like, this is going to spread. And I was like, I really didn't know I didn't know, how to answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, next thing I know, there's, like, local magazines and newspapers in the Pennsylvania area reaching out for interviews, and it just...
Well, you're downplaying it a little bit. I mean, it kind of went viral online. I mean, it was ESPN top 10 and stuff like that.
Well, it was
out there.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like a snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
Just that it started locally, in that area. And one of my friends actually told me, and I didn't even realize this, that the following, I think it was either the next day or the day after, that the free throw had like almost 100,000 views on YouTube. I didn't even know it was up on YouTube. And again, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was just excited because I just scored my first point. And yeah, I mean, from the local newspapers and magazines to all of a sudden ESPN, Yahoo Sports are calling.
Yeah, there's a story behind it.
Yeah.
To you, it's so weird because to something little like that, to you, it's just a free throw.
Mm-hmm.
But to everybody else watching and cheering for you for the last 3.5 years,
mm-hmm.
it's so much bigger than that.
Right.
So
yep.
It's just weird how people view things, how you view it. It's not that big a deal. I made a basket, but then the rest of the world is like, it's viral online.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's true. And then, another thing, my friends are, because I wasn't used to being interviewed by ESPN. I was a good athlete, but played at the Division III level. It's not like there's ESPN cameras following me around on campus at Gettysburg and, all that stuff. So just all the hype and everything, my friends are saying, dude, they're going to make a movie about this. Like, this is the next Rudy. This is the next, the Blind Side, one of those. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, guys, like, just calm down. Like, I know, like, ESPN, this is insane. Mm-hmm. Not going to be a movie. And then sure enough, I start getting some phone calls from some people out in LA about interest in making a movie. And this was like... He's
Christian can't believe it. He's shocked right now.
Yeah.
Christian, true story.
You'll have to check it out.
1,000 to 1. Check it
out. So people reached out, and we decided to go with a group of guys who were just so authentic and said that it's going to be a low budget movie. You might not know any of the actors or actresses, but our goal is to take your story, put it on paper, and then turn it into a movie. We're not going to make it Hollywood. It's going to be your story. In a movie form.
And you did have some of those kind of Hollywood guys chasing you around, telling you how great it was going to be and it was going to be big, and you decided to go with this smaller group because you liked the guys and the way they spoke to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because we had some guys who were throwing out these big. This one guy in particular was throwing out all these names of celebrities that he hung out with, and in all honesty, I don't know if he even was planning on making the movie. The guys that we ended up going with were so genuine and said, "Listen, we're going to make this happen." And then it just so happens that a lot of big names got drawn to, the idea of the movie. David, who ended up playing me in the movie, David Henry's like very well known under my age group. He's more, I guess, I'm 28, so I guess it's more of people that are starting at about like 24. Know him from The Wizards of Waverly Place. Was a huge
Sorry.
No, it's Christian.
It's a huge Disney show
Yeah.
where he starred with Selena Gomez. So David, heard about the movie and like auditioned, and luckily they casted him, and he just did an incredible job. And then Beau Bridges decided he wanted to play my coach, so he auditioned, and he's a good actor, so he got my coach. And then, just, a bunch of other really successful actors and actresses, wanted to be a part of it, and it was amazing. And I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. It is my story in a movie form. It's probably 90, I get the question a lot, like, oh, how true is it? And I say it's like 95% true. And the 5% are things that don't really matter much. It's just for the sake of a movie, like, to change up a certain, if something happened, let's say, I had a seizure, so I had a seizure with, someone outside of the movie, like prior to the movie. Mm-hmm. In the movie, they just had me have that seizure with someone else, in the car with me. Just like little things like that. So that's why I can't say it's 100% accurate, but all in all, it is my story, in a movie.
Right.
Which is
probably
awesome.
Not a lot of people out there can say they had a movie made after them, right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of like move on now past that college thing. So just so everybody understands again, stroke freshman year of college, go back sophomore year, graduate on time, play basketball, and now you kind of start doing like this motivational speaking stuff because of what happened to you and I guess the positive experience after, right? So talk a little bit about the motivational speaking stuff, the message that you like to send out, and your philosophy about it. Because when you and I were talking on the phone the other night, and some of the stuff you were saying, and I told you on the phone, I was mind blown. So talk about that stuff a little bit.
Yeah. All of it actually started because just a local school around, I think it was like one of the Gettysburg middle schools, reached out to me maybe a couple weeks after my story broke and asked me to come share my story. And I was in the middle of midterms and didn't really have a chance to prepare anything. But I was like, I know my story. I'm just going to go up and, tell the kids my story. It ended up being in front of like 650 students. But I have no problem talking. Like I love talking. I don't get nervous in front of people. And again, I didn't have anything prepared. I was in the middle of school and didn't have time. But went up there, I told my story, and just the feedback that I got from people is what really showed me that what happened to me, and this is what I talked about, the other night, that this terrible thing that happened to me was actually the greatest gift I was ever given. Because after just all I did was go up and tell my story, it took about 45 minutes, and I told these like 650 kids my story, and the messages that I got on Facebook and emails saying that, my story changed their life and gave them hope and gave them motivation and taught them things that they never thought that they would, learn, and showed them not to take things for granted. These are the things that just, like I said, this stroke was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. It was the biggest obstacle I had ever faced, but also the greatest gift I was ever given.
Yeah, and once again, me just sitting across the table or the other night on the phone when we were having that, and for you to say that, I don't know, do you understand how crazy that is for me to hear and for you to say that?
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand why it sounds crazy. Because I never would have thought that, if I went back 10 years, right when I had the stroke, I never would have said, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. But now knowing that what happened to me, how my story played out, and what I'm able to do with it is able to inspire hundreds and thousands of lives all over the world, really, because the movie was on Netflix for about 3 years. Still on Amazon, so I was getting messages from literally all over the world saying, hey, like, I saw your movie, it really helped me out, I'm going through a hard time myself. A million messages, whether it be my dad had this sort of injury, my mom had this sort of injury, my friend, you really gave me hope, and I'm going to share your story with them and, make them feel better. And then even some pretty crazy ones that I never thought I would ever receive is, I would get messages from people who were actually like suicidal, which is pretty powerful, and it's kind of tough for me to get those messages, but I've gotten a lot of those where people have seen my story, and they said, like, flat out, it's prevented me from taking my life.
That's
crazy. I felt awful, and I felt like I had nothing to give to the the world, and And I saw your movie, and it showed me that, there's something that all of us could bring to the table, and, we take certain things for granted. And, your story gave me hope. So, to know that my story what I did could impact hundreds and thousands of lives, like all over the world, that's why to me it's so clear cut that it's a blessing, a gift.
Now, if people wanted to see the movie now, where can they see it?
So it's on Amazon Prime. It should be back up on Netflix within the next year or two. Netflix is just always recycling things and rolling things over. At first, when it got taken down, I wasn't insulted, but I was like a little bit bummed. Mm-hmm. And then I think like a month later, I don't watch Family Guy, but it's like a huge, very, very, very successful cartoon or show. Family Guy got taken down off of Netflix. So I was like, okay, if Family Guy got taken down, then I'm not going to feel so bad about
1,000 to 1.
1,000, right, that's okay. But yeah, so
the
the Netflix is just always recycling things. So it should be back up there within the next like year or two, but it's on Amazon, and then it shouldn't be on YouTube. It's like, I think it's technically illegal for that to happen. I really don't care though, because someone uploaded it on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, if you go to YouTube and just type in 1,000 to 1, the Cory Weissman story, you could watch it all right there. And that itself has like a couple 100,000 views. So like I said, I don't care that it's not supposed to be, on YouTube.
It's there.
It's an outlet for people who don't have Amazon to, to watch it. So.
Right. Talk a little bit about some of the traveling you've done doing the speaking, and we talked the other night on the phone, and some of the other people you've met, like some of the other motivational speakers out there, like you mentioned Eric LeGrand, Scotty Kramer from the BMX world, and Eric Thomas, is that right? Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher.
Yeah, the hip hop preacher.
So talk a little bit about that, and I think it's interesting when all you guys talk, you kind of all have almost the same message, right? Maybe in a little bit different spin because of whatever might have happened to them. But the message is still kind of the same. And Eric said something to you because you met him, and who'd you go see speak? Him and Inky?
Inky Johnson, yeah.
You went and saw him and Inky Johnson speak. So talk a little bit about that, like some of the guys you met, what they've said, and how you guys kind of influence each other and kind of play off each other's, positive vibe that you send out.
Yeah, so I mean, I've had plenty of conversations with Eric LeGrand, and I was very happy. I finally got to hear him speak after being friends with him for a while. I finally had the opportunity to actually hear him give one of his talks. And he gets the question all the time, like, how do you stay so positive? Because this is someone whose life was flipped completely upside down. Is in a wheelchair, paralyzed. He's not able to move, his arms or legs. But this is someone who has a smile on his face at 24/7. Just positive. Never complains. All he wants to do is use his story to help others. And when I heard him say, he said, people always ask me, like, how do I stay so positive? And he said, because there's so many people out there that have it worse than me. And so to hear someone who's in a wheelchair, and paralyzed, to hear them say that there's other people that have it worse than them, it kind of puts things into perspective. He's like, yeah, I mean, there were people that I was in Kessler with that passed away, unfortunately, while they were in Kessler. There were people that didn't have friends and family coming and visiting them. So how could I feel bad for myself? I understand my physical situation and things that I'm not able to do right now. But he also has that goal of, something that he's working towards. His one goal, just like mine was to get back out into the basketball court, is he wants to go to MetLife Stadium where he had his injury. He made that hit. I think it's on like the 30-yard line or something. He had that head-on collision, and he said he wants to go to that exact spot, lay down, and get up on his own and walk off the field on his own 2 feet. So just back to really learning from him and hearing him say that, how could he feel bad for himself? I think it's like a full circle, because when I see people like that, and I see people like Eric, and then also Scotty, Scotty Kramer's story, people will look at me and say, how could I feel bad for myself when Cory had to go through what he did? I sprained my ankle. How could I feel bad for myself? Cory had a stroke. Well, I'm the same as, the person across from me who's saying that about me. I'm saying, how could I, Cory, feel bad for myself when there are people like, Eric and Scotty and, 100,000, other people out there who have it, worse or are in similar situations. How could I feel bad for myself? And what's crazy is that they're saying, how could they feel bad for themselves because it's actually a gift, and there are other people that have it worse. And I think that really we were talking about this the other night, that the message there is that a lot of times when something like this happens to you, you start to appreciate what you have, and you stop taking things for granted. So regardless of the severity of someone's injury or something that happened in their lives, they realize how much they do truly have, and they can appreciate everything that they do have. So even though someone across from them might say, wow, he has it so bad, in their head, and in my head, I know just how lucky I am and how many things I do have in my life, to be thankful for.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy how it, kind of goes full circle.
Also, when we were talking, you said you just got to see Eric talk. What did Eric say to you?
LeGrand or Thomas?
Thomas.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. I've been saying E.T. Eric Thomas. Yeah, so he actually, in regards to using my gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he had me in tears when I was listening to him talk about 2 weeks ago. He was saying that things don't happen for you. Things that happen to you aren't happening for you. They're happening for other people. And that really hit home for me, because he was also saying that if you have a dream and if you're aspiring to do something, like in my situation, I want to tell my story. I want to travel all over the country, all over the world, and get to a point where I'm doing that, and just full time. He's saying that if you're not doing that, if you're not pursuing your dream, there are people out there that are suffering because of you. There are people out there that are not getting better on a daily basis because of you, and that just hit home. That ignited a fire in me, because I have this opportunity to inspire people all over the world, and I know what my story can do for people. So just that kind of lit another fire under me, that all right, we gotta get back out, and
he told you that in conversation. It wasn't like him on the stage talking.
Yeah. No, so it was it was powerful. I mean, I needed to. So then I told him. I said, listen, I've been trying hard, and I'm probably at 100% in regards to trying to get out there and tell my story. But I was like, until I make it to 110% commitment of going all in and sharing my story, then I'll reach back out to you and see if we could work together, and ask you for some advice.
Yeah, and I once again, when they start talking about that stuff, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, other people are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
That's once again, it's a great statement, but no one thinks like that. No one who thinks like that, and that's why I think guys like him and LeGrand and you going out there doing it, and even Scotty doing it on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
You really get to see their story, and other people out there I really don't have it that bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think that's good, and thank you and all those guys that we just mentioned for doing that. What about other people you've met, just not the motivational speakers, but you were talking to me on the phone the other night when we were speaking, you have a younger kid you met now, you kind of mentor a little bit.
Yep.
So tell the people about that a little bit.
Yeah, there's a little brother to me now, and he really epitomizes and just kind of puts everything into one. He's one thing that pretty much sums up my entire experience and accident and everything good that's come from it. Shortly after my story went public, I had someone email me and told me that his friend's grandson, just had a stroke, had an AVM, literally the same as yours, Cory. He's going through a hard time. If you'd be able to, reach out to his mom, I'd appreciate it. He's only 9 years old. If you have time to reach out to her, I'd appreciate it. So I reached out right away and ended up having about a 2-hour conversation with his mom. The young boy's name, he's not such a young boy anymore, is Will Penn. He lives down in Atlanta, Georgia, and we spoke on the phone. Me and his mom would speak on the phone, every couple weeks, just to check in, see how he was doing. And again, he was very young at the time. When I first.
How old was he when he actually had his accident?
He was 9 years old. So his was 6 years ago. So he's 15, 16 now. It was 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's 16 now. But yeah, so I would talk to him once in a while and just try to, give him some positive, some positivity and keep him motivated and everything.
How was his demeanor when it first happened? For a 9-year-old, that's...
So that's really what killed me, in all honesty, when I heard that, even just in that initial email, that a 9-year-old had, a stroke like I did, just like broke my heart, because I was 19 and I knew how it turned my life upside down. At 9 years old, you're supposed to be outside, running around, getting dirty with your friends, getting in trouble for whatever, not being back in the house at 5 o'clock. Right, dinner time. So to think that someone at such a young age had to go through that is like really what like drew me to, I gotta, reach out to this person. And now, like I said, he's like a little brother to me. We talk all the time. We have a tradition of going to an amusement park every year. Obviously, we're both in Jackson, so we know that Jackson's pretty much only known for Six Flags Great Adventure. So he came up from Georgia, and we went to Great Adventure. I went down and stayed at their house down in Georgia a couple times. So I mean, I've gotten to see him so many times, and we're in touch and talk all the time. And it's just like I said, it's something that really just sums up everything that like bad happened to me, just how truly good it is.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I have to share is that his mom sent me an email of a paper that he had to do. He had to write this paper and then do like an oral presentation about it. And it was about heroes. It was like the goal of the paper was to write about a hero, like what's a hero to you. And he started off the paper, and you were saying you get chills, I get chills, and he said, a lot of times when people hear the word hero, they think of like people with superhuman strength and X-ray vision and be able to fly. And he's like, my hero doesn't have any of that. My hero is Cory Weissman. And I mean, I started crying. I'll never forget it. I just got out of, I'm trying not to get like emotional now, but no, I'll never forget it. I just got out of work. I was sitting in my car and read the email, and I just started crying because, I mean, like I said, that terrible thing that happened to me is not terrible at all. It's a gift, because I mean, look at this, this young kid who also had his life turned upside down, and because of what happened to me, he's able to move forward and hopefully live his life to the best of his ability.
And how is he now at 6 years after, 7 years after?
He's doing well. He's got his unfortunately his stroke was a little bit deeper in his brain, so he hasn't had as much of a physical return as I have. He still struggles a little bit with his left side, but he's living a normal life. He is in high school. He's about to get his license and start driving. Great kid, just extremely positive. I'm happy I'm there for him, and if he ever needs me, I'm there. But I think a lot of times these things happen to people who are strong enough to handle it, because he's just another person who, in my opinion, he's strong enough to handle it whether I'm there or not. He's just got such a positive attitude, and he just wants to live his life to the best of his ability. So I mean, yeah, he's doing well. He's 16, and it's terrible that something like this could happen to people at such a young age. But I think as he gets older and matures a little bit more, he'll be able to realize that he can do so much with his story. He's still a little young to
understand the concept.
Yeah, he's still a little young to really understand it right now. But at some point he'll get to a point where he's like, okay, I could really start reaching out to people and helping others. And he doesn't realize it yet, but plenty of people have been inspired by his story. Just talking to his mom and hearing what they're doing with his foundation down in Georgia, he's been able to help a lot of people already. So
that's great. So we just kind of took you through that from stroke freshman year of college through and now to kind of where you are today. Talk a little bit about what you're doing right now in life.
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of in like a transition phase. I'm working as like a sales rep for a logistics company. Ultimately, and that's something that I'm doing right now. Ultimately, like I said, I want to speak full time, just tell my story. So I'm doing, I would say it's not 50-50, but I'm still doing quite a few speaking engagements.
Mm-hmm.
I just got back from New York a couple weeks ago. I was up in New York and had the chance to share my story with a bunch of middle school students, and then I have one coming up in a couple weeks now. But yeah, just in regards to, like my everyday, I'm a sales rep for like a logistics company. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, my goal is solely focused on speaking. Whether that's tomorrow, next year, 5 years, 10 years. I know for a fact that I'm not supposed to have a 9 to 5 job. That's just not something. And there's nothing wrong with that. A 9 to 5. It's just that what happened to me for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I would truly be doing it a disservice to not use my story, to help others, especially because I know how much it could help others. It would really be, it's my duty, and it's an obligation of mine to use my story to help others. And like Eric Thomas said, is, anytime you're not using your story, you're hurting other people. So that's why I'm just going to keep working to be able to do as many speaking engagements as I possibly could, and reach out to as many people as I could to just try and use my story to inspire and motivate people, and help them to the best of my ability.
Before we kind of wrap it up, anything like we didn't talk about today that you wanted to mention, or any like your philosophy or your last words you want to kind of leave the audience with, or?
I mean, no, I know we really hit a lot of it. I would just say that we mentioned it briefly, just about not taking things for granted and appreciating what you have, and I think that's one of the things that I really did learn the most about, because to this day, if I could go back to March 26th of 2009 and just look down at my left leg and watch it, just take a normal step again. I mean, I would do that, and I would love to be able to do that, just to say, wow, this feels great. Like my left foot works normal, and that's something so simple that most people don't think about every step that they take.
No, putting one foot in front of the other. No one thinks about
right,
it.
Exactly, and it's something so simple like that. But I didn't make these sayings up. You don't know what you got till it's gone. Don't take what you have for granted. But like I said, I mean, unfortunately, until you go through something like this, you really don't know what you got till it's gone. Because like I said, my left leg will hopefully continue to get better and better till the day that I die. But it most likely will never be 100% normal. So you really don't know what you got, until it's gone. And unfortunately, that's something that I took for granted, that I was able to play sports, at the level I was able to. But yeah, I mean, just really appreciate what you have, whether it's, physical capabilities, mental, capabilities, friends, family. I mean, we hear about stories all the time of, how people's lives could change in an instant, just like mine did. It literally I was working out, and next thing I know, my life was, changed forever. So, you really never know. So yeah, just not taking things for granted is really, is one of the things. And then obviously just the hard work, having a positive mindset and working towards a goal, that never die attitude of, you could be down, you could feel like, you're never going to accomplish your goal. But, as long as you continue to push forward, stay positive, and just have that never die attitude, and, never be willing to quit, you could really accomplish anything. And I truly believe that. I really do.
Yeah.
That positive mindset, the never die attitude, and I say it all the time. I think the sky's the limit as to what people could achieve, because really it's up to you if you want to just give up, or if you want to keep going and go out and accomplish your goal and get something that you really want.
Yeah. Cory, thank you so much for coming today, sharing your story. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.